Today we're going to be focusing on vocabulary instruction. The reason I wanted to focus on vocabulary instruction is based on our 2015-2016 report card. So this diagram is basically a summary of the report card grades that we have received. And as you can see, there are a lot of A's and B's, a few D's, and then there is an F. So what does this mean? Overall, the district has performed well. We received a B in both achievement as well as progress and an A for our graduation rate. And then there was a C in prepared for successness. The areas that we scored the lowest in included closing the gap, where we were scored an F, and the K-3 literacy score, which was a D. So I want to talk about our needs. I think our largest need is the closing the gap, which we received an F. And although as a district we performed well, we have several areas for improvement, and one of those areas includes closing the gap. So what that means is we have struggled to reach the lowest achieving students. Here we have a map, a little diagram that kind of explains the score we received and why we received it. As you can see here, our Asian Pacific Islanders scored above our annual measurable objectives. And then the next three categories were very close, if not, did they not hit it. Now, as we continue to go down, the scores drop, with our lowest score being our students with disabilities. So within the English language arts strand, our lowest groups include students with disabilities, multiracial, and economically disadvantaged students. What now? So now is the time to determine how to best reach and make a difference for our neediest population. In order to improve our students' reading comprehension, we need to look at factors that affect reading comprehension, and one of those areas is vocabulary. According to Graves, a limited vocabulary is a substantial obstacle to success in reading comprehension. So that begs the question, fluency versus vocabulary. So oftentimes when people think of deficits in reading comprehension, fluency is the first thing that comes to mind. As a district, we have focused on improving fluency. However, the students are still struggling. So that means it is time for a change in focus. According to Clemens and Simmons, although fluency serves as a predictor of comprehension in the early stages of reading, vocabulary is a significant factor in developing comprehension in later elementary and middle school grades. Here I have a diagram. I want you to take a moment to look at this diagram and see if you can identify the strategy that is being used. If you guessed semantic mapping, you are correct. Semantic mapping is basically where you focus on a particular topic or vocabulary word, and the student then uses their schema or background knowledge in order to give information about that topic. And according to Little and Box, research has shown that the use of pre-reading activities such as graphic or advanced organizers can positively affect student acquisition of vocabulary and meaning when reading new concepts presented in text. One particularly effective strategy, semantic mapping, can significantly impact students who previously had a lack of prior knowledge on new content reading material by assisting them to better understand the vocabulary and content of the reading material prior to actually reading the material. The strategy of semantic mapping, as well as all advanced in graphic organizers, is based on the theory that a student's structure of prior knowledge and experiences related to the acquisition of new concepts is a critical element in the student becoming a successful learner and reader. So today we're going to take a closer look at semantic mapping and what that means for our students. Semantic mapping can be used through all of the different grade level bands. And first I want to look at elementary. So semantic mapping can be used with different vocabulary words, prefixes, suffixes, and so much more to encourage our vocabulary instruction. The great thing about semantic mapping is it also lends itself to differentiation. Some of the ways that you can differentiate semantic mapping is by the output in which they produce it. For example, they could draw pictures versus writing words versus writing sentences. So here's my first example, and as you can see in the middle, there's a topic, things or people at school. So the teacher probably gave the topic to the student and then allowed the student to draw pictures that they can relate to things at school. So in this example, they drew scissors, glue, paper pencil, swing set, a teacher, and some friends. So those are all things that the student relates back to school. In my next example, it's a little bit more structured. So dolphins is the middle topic, and then instead of just allowing the student to go off on their own, they kind of give them a little bit more structured of approach where they can implement topics based on the subgroups. So how they move, what they look like, what they eat, how they sleep, and how they breathe. This could also be used as an assessment. At the end of a unit, they could use this to kind of identify if the students recognize and remember the different items they talked about throughout the unit. Lastly, and the most simple way to use the semantic map is simply by giving a word and allowing the student to implement any other words or characteristics that they can relate back to that word. So in this particular example, the word was fire, and the student related back different words like scorching, kindled, smoldering. Semantic mapping can also be used at the intermediate level. And the adaptations as the students go throughout the grades include increased concepts and difficulty. In my first example, students created a semantic map on the computer, which is a great way to kind of incorporate technology as well as challenge some students. So the concept is the same where they discuss oceans, and the student then implements and adds any word or topic that they can relate back to oceans. And as you can see, they also went and found different clip arts that they added in order to add a more visual piece to this graphic organizer. Next is kind of a reversed semantic map where the teacher may put words on a page and then the student has to kind of identify how are they related together. So this student was able to identify that oranges was the main topic, and then there were several different subtopics that included nutritious, peels, slices, and oranges, and they created all the different subgroups with those supporting details and related them all back to the main topic of oranges. Lastly, you can use a semantic map as a whole class form of instruction. So they were learning about the word record. And in this example, they learned the many definitions of record. So they learned about athletic records, health records, a record player, a song record, tax records. So for some students, this might be a great way to open up more information about a particular word. And when you do it with a group, the student not only is able to build upon their background knowledge, but they can also gain more information based on other students' background knowledge within the classroom. Lastly, we have the high school level, and as previously stated, the students travel through schooling. The semantic mapping can be differentiated to become increasingly more beneficial for the student. So as they join high school, the topics get a little bit more difficult. So for example, this topic was all about digestion. And the other thing I like about semantic mapping is that the student can organize it in any way that they find beneficial. So in a lot of the other ones, it looks like there was just a circle in the middle and then some circles around the outside. But as you can see, this one's really elaborate where there's subgroups within the subgroup and more subgroups. So it really kind of lends itself to deeper thinking and taking the main topic and then really honing in on those smaller details that go along with that topic. Also, you could use it as a whole unit instruction. So if you're doing a unit about Pluto, maybe every day the students come in and they learn about a new topic. So the first day they learned about Pluto's name and they add some information to their semantic map about the name Pluto. Then the next day they come and they talk about characteristics. Then the next day they learn about the solar system, and every day they come, they add more and more information to their semantic map so that by the end of the unit they have an entire sheet filled with a great quick summary and visual of the topic Pluto, and they can use this as a study guide for that unit test. And lastly, you can use a semantic map as a form of assessment. So if you did a unit on Egypt, you could ask the students to then create a semantic map, and you could look at it and identify what did the student really take away from this lesson. Did they get the main concepts? Do they understand how the main concepts relate to the subtopics? And it's a great way to check your students' work by allowing them to kind of show you what they know in their own way. So that brings us to our conclusion. In conclusion, I just want to discuss that an increased vocabulary will help to improve our students' comprehension, which will then help to improve our scores on those big standardized tests, which will also hopefully, in relation, bump our grade of closing the gap from an F up to something a little bit more higher. So semantic mapping is a great tool that can be used across the entire district to help all students, especially our most at-risk students. And according to Johnson, important vocabulary words and concepts are introduced, and this process allows students to quickly attain new knowledge and or relate prior knowledge associated with the conceptual topics of the reading assignment. So our next steps, I want you to take a minute to kind of practice creating your own semantic map. And remember, it could be about whatever you took away from this presentation. So if you would like your main topic to be semantic map and then have your subtopics be different ways to create it, different ways the students can document it, anything that goes along with a semantic map. Or if you'd like to focus more on your particular grade level and band, you could maybe think about the next unit that you're going to teach and create a semantic map to help your students visualize what the entire unit will be about. So be creative and enjoy practicing making your own semantic map. If you need more time, please pause the presentation, or you can add more to your semantic map after the presentation is end. But that brings me to my reference page, and I just wanted to share some of these references with you. If you would like any more information about using different semantic maps or how important vocabulary is in implementing with our students, you may check out any of these different research articles, or you can also reach out to me. My email is brittany.martella@northroyaltonsd.org. I hope you gained some valuable information, and I hope you will implement using semantic maps into your classroom this year. Thanks. Have a great afternoon.